Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Fuller, and as Chair of the Board, I welcome you to this April 18th, 2023 regular meeting of the Washtenaw County Board of Road Commissioners. Our office coordinator, Aaron Smith, will describe how our meetings operate, how to access the agenda packet, and how people may participate remotely. Aaron?
Thanks, Chair Fuller. There are multiple ways to make public comment during today's meeting, whether you're joining us in person or virtually. If you're here in person and would like to make public comment, please fill out the sign-in sheet now. If you're joining us virtually, we ask you to raise your hand at the appropriate time in the agenda. If you're joining us virtually and are experiencing technical issues with audio or video during the meeting, submit a comment in the chat feature and our communications manager will help you troubleshoot. The audio and video of this meeting is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be posted to wcroads.org in the next few days. There are printed copies of today's meeting agenda on the table near the front door, and it is also posted on our website. And now I'll turn it over to Chair Barb Fuller.
Thank you, Aaron. I now call this April 18th, 2023 regular meeting to order and ask Aaron to call the roll.
Chair Barb Fuller.
Present.
Vice Chair Rod Green.
Present.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas.
Present.
Commissioner Joanne McCullum.
Present.
And the following directors are in attendance: Managing Director Cheryl Siddle, Director of Engineering and County Highway Engineer Matt McDonald, Director of Operations Adam Lape, and Director of Finance and IT Dan Ackerman.
Thank you. If you would please join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Madam
Chair, I move to approve the agenda for April 18th. Working normal session.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. Any changes, amendments, additions? Seeing none, Aaron, if you would please.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Joanne McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas.
Yes.
And Commissioner Barb Fuller.
Yes. The agenda is approved as presented. We have one set of minutes to approve today. May I have a motion to accept the board meeting minutes of April 4th, 2023 as presented, appearing on pages 4 through 12 of the packet?
So move.
Support. Any additions, deletions, corrections? Seeing none, Aaron, if you would please.
Commissioner Joanne McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas.
Yes.
Commissioner Rod Green.
Yes.
And Commissioner Barb Fuller.
Yes, the minutes are accepted as presented. Next item on our agenda is public comment. This is the time set aside on the agenda to receive comments from the public. This is not intended to be a period for dialogue. Each person will be allotted 3 minutes to address the board. Aaron will explain how people may be recognized to offer comments. Aaron.
Since this is a hybrid meeting with both in-person and virtual attendees, we will take turns between those attending in person and virtually. For virtual attendees, we have provided some instructions on the screen on how to participate and make public comment. If you're attending this meeting virtually and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand now. If you dialed into the meeting from your phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. Our communications manager will unmute virtual participants with raised hands one at a time and will announce your username or last 4 digits of your phone number when it is your turn to speak. Please share your name and address before beginning your comments. It looks like at this time, there is no one in person or virtually that would like to make comment.
Thank you. We will move on. There is a section on written communications next, pages 13 through 14 of the packet. Anything anyone wants to bring to our attention? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is follow-up to public comment, of which there was none, so we will move on to new business. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, items 1 through 6, background on pages 15 through 44.
I so move.
A second, please.
Support.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any discussion? Aaron, if you'd please call the roll.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas,
Yes.
Commissioner Joanne McCullum,
Yes.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Yes.
and Commissioner Barb Fuller.
Yes. The consent agenda is approved as presented, items 1 through 6. Next, may I have a motion to approve action item number 1, to approve the good faith offer to acquire an easement and a temporary grading permit in Dexter Township. The motion itself appears on page 19. Background is appearing on pages 38 through 41.
Madam Chair, that upon the recommendation of the Director of Engineering, County Highway Engineer, and concurrence of the Managing Director, the board hereby approves the acquisition of a 450 square foot public road easement and a temporary grading permit, more particularly described in Exhibit A from the property owners Keith and Cindy Singledecker, located upon a parcel of property commonly known as 6475 Dexter Town Hall Road, Dexter Township, Michigan, with a corresponding tax identification number of D-04-16-400-006 in the amount of $675.
I support.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Aaron, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas.
Yes.
Commissioner Joanne McCollum,
Yes.
and Commissioner Barb Fuller.
Yes, the motion is approved as presented. May I have a motion to approve action item number 2, to recognize and receive the petition and set the date for a public hearing for abandonment of West Delhi Road north of Jackson Road in Scioto Township. The motion appears once again on page 19, background on pages 42 through 44.
Madam Chair, I move that upon the recommendation of the Director of Engineering, County Highway Engineer, and concurrence of the Managing Director, that the board hereby recognizes receipt of a petition to abandon West Delhi Road north of Jackson Road, being part of sections 22 and 23 of Scioto Township, Washtenaw County, Michigan, and sets the public hearing date on May 16th of 2023 at 1:00 p.m. during the regular scheduled meeting of the Washtenaw County Road Commission.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, Aaron, if you would please.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas,
Yes.
Commissioner Joanne McCollum,
Yes.
and Commissioner Barb Fuller.
Yes, the action item is approved as presented. Next, we have reports. I don't see either of our county commission liaisons. Is that correct, Tiffany? Okay,
You're correct.
all right. So we will move along to the reports of the road commissioners, starting with Commissioner Yamas.
So on April 10th, I reviewed the Michigan Department of Treasury Protecting Michigan Pensions and Grant on YouTube. And I read the media stories on the New York, on Sun Times about the new roundabout for Dexter and the Chelsea update. And that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Green.
Yes. On March the 21st, I attended the County Road Association Highway Conference and Road Show in Lansing, Michigan. On March the 20th, and I also attended the session of the negotiating committee with operation managers Adam Lake. I also attended the chat session on March 22nd, 2023. On March 23rd, I attended the General Assembly meeting of SEMCOG, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. On April 5th, I attended the chat session of the Washtenaw County Road Commission.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes, on April 11th, I attended the Parks and Rec board meeting. And I am now on the Border to Border Trail Committee. And we also accepted a contractor's bid for one of the Border to Border trails. April 11th, I also attended the headline lunching with Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. And then on April 12th, I attended the chat with the Road Commission and we had one person.
Thank you. I will report that on April 11th, I too attended the A2Y Chamber Headliner Lunch featuring Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. We will move on to the Managing Director's report, staff reports, and Road Commission updates. Cheryl.
All right. Thank you, Chair Fuller. I'll start as I always do. Do we have any questions about any of the staff reports provided in the packet? All right. Just a couple of quick updates. First of all, last week I had the opportunity to meet with Georgia Frost. She is one of the field representatives for Representative Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. Primarily, she represents or assists with the western part of Washtenaw County. So it was a pleasure to meet her and to help her better understand the role of the Washtenaw County Road Commission, again, especially focusing on the rural areas. I believe that that's an important relationship, a very pleasant individual, and I look forward to working with her in the future. I'm sure that Adam will be touching on it shortly, but we've continued to meet with various townships. Adam and I did meet last week with Bridgewater Township. I know Adam himself was over at SIO, and then we'll be meeting later on this week with Ypsilanti Township, again, continuing to work on that local road program. We do know that construction season is upon us, and last week we held the first virtual public meeting that was for the Lower Road construction, which will start next week in Pittsfield Township. And we have a whole slew of meetings coming up here shortly. Michigan Avenue here in River Drive, so stay tuned. We'll be continuing to send out notices about those public meetings. They're a great way to reach out to people and share information in advance of the construction. Not only do they have the opportunity to attend and hear it live, then it is also recorded and then available for viewing later, which we've found actually is quite useful for a lot of people. Let's see, we also concluded on Monday the Gallup Employee Engagement Survey. So we look forward to seeing the results of that survey and then meeting with Gallup representatives so that we understand the results of the survey and then can start strategizing how to use that information to work primarily with our supervisory team in order to continue to improve our organization. We also have a breakfast scheduled for next Monday at 8 o'clock. That's April 24th. It's what we're labeling a legislative breakfast. So we've invited all of our state legislators, both representatives and senators, to attend for this area. Again, an opportunity to better educate them about the Washtenaw County Road Commission. Transportation in general, they have a lot on their plate when they're in Lansing. And so what at the end of the day, we'd like them to know is that we are their transportation experts and are happy to provide any input should they have questions about what proposed legislation might mean specifically to the county road system.
And are the commissioners welcome to attend that breakfast?
Yes, the commissioners have been invited and are welcome to attend. If you have not already responded, please let Erin know if you plan to attend. I know she's been following up with the various senators and representatives as well, so that we're trying to get a head count as close as we can for next week. And then finally, on Monday, May 1st is the Southeast Council meeting of the County Road Association. If you've not already done so, please let Erin know whether you plan to attend that. It is being hosted this month by the Monroe County Road Commission. Great. I think that's all that I have. Unless you have questions for me, I'll be happy to hand it over to staff.
See any questions?
All right. First up, we have Adam Lape, our Director of Operations.
Good afternoon, Adam Lape, Director of Operations. Provide a little update for the operations side of things. So staff continues to perform prep work for the 2023 season. That's drainage, forestry work. Also working on surface maintenance throughout the county road system, both unpaved and soft surface. This week's a little bit of a challenge, so haven't got as much done as we planned. Last week we made great headway with the great weather. So hope to get some more of that nice weather coming sooner than later. We don't like when it's chilly. It's a little harder to work. So we are hauling limestone and spreading it in Saline Township. So we've in theory started our season. It's just Mother Nature's kind of hanging on to winter there for us. So we're actively doing that. We're still productive. It's slowing us down a little bit with the weather, but still getting by. So we're excited to finally be moving some limestone. So happy for that. We do still continue to work with the townships, making a lot of final scope adjustments for the projects, which inevitably gives us the township agreements. We've talked to, Cheryl noted a few recently, Linden Township last week, Sile Township. We're going to talk with Sylvan Township this Thursday. Rourke Freeman, our District 4 foreman, was able to speak on Monday with Freedom Township. So we're going in a couple different directions, about 20. But we're talking to everybody, and there's a lot of excitement and a lot of work that I think is on the table for the township. So I think we're in a good place. I think we'll have a good year. So we're pretty excited about that. It'll be nice to see all that coming in May for the board to see and sign, and we can get job numbers and keep moving.
Are they appreciative that we're picking up the dust control this year? Is that acknowledged
Yes.
in any way? Okay.
Yes, very much so. They're all, it's been easy conversations. It's exciting because, you know, the room lightens up a little bit every time you see another anywhere between $20,000 to $60,000 on their face that they can spend on the roads. And that's what we've talked to them about, is it's an opportunity to truly spend money on the roads. So that gets them literally back another mile down the road.
Yeah.
And that's a lot more than some can do. So it's been exciting to talk about that. And with Sylvan and Linden Township specifically, local roads are important to them right now with the Consumers Pipeline moving through. So as noted here previously at the working session, we were able to secure some funding for the local roads. So both of those townships are very excited about that. They're thankful for that. They've thanked me to thank you. And so we do appreciate that, the support that we get. Matt and his staff was able to make this work. So we're in a good place in those two townships as well. So more to come here in the next month or so, and then we'll get really into it. The material storage building, the pre-construction meeting, our goal is to schedule that and have that next week. All the building permits, they're being secured, fees are being processed. We're ready to keep moving forward. So at this point, we are on schedule, and our intention is to break ground in May. Our staff here at the Road Commission is rearranging some of our bulk material storage area. So we have some space to maintain our level of service while the construction's ongoing. So we've relocated the vast majority of that. We're going to relocate the final little bits from the traffic and safety side. They're little fenced in areas out back you guys probably seen before, but move those a little bit further out so we can have all the construction traffic kind of isolated to one area. We're on schedule. That's the main thing. So all is good with that. So if there aren't any other questions, that is my update for this afternoon.
When does next year's salt arrive? What month does that?
Usually September, October. So that's okay. We've spoke with Detroit Salt. So we're going to make some adjustments to our delivery schedule. We can still secure the material, purchase material, so to speak. So we'll be okay with that. We'll be able to make that work.
They'll
October.
save it for us.
Oh, yeah, we'll be good. Yeah, we'll be good. So yeah, we would essentially just adjust the delivery schedule to later in the year. And we'll be able to get that in the new building, and off we go.
Because don't we get a second
Yeah.
delivery?
So we have the early backfill is what is considered.
Okay.
Will be considered this fall. And then you have late season, basically during the season options. So we reach a certain point about Halloween that if you started using material by November, you'd purchase more. That would be the season's
Okay,
price. So yeah, we're good and set up for that. And we have a little bit left over in the old dome. So we're in
okay,
a good place.
great. Any questions for Commissioner
Or
Green?
just one.
Yeah.
I had heard that during the milder seasons, often we use more salt than during heavier seasons. Has that been the case?
We're
this year with
actually,
Mild winter?
yeah, actually right now we're in a good place. We're at about our 20,000 average. So I'd call it an average. We're actually okay right now. We haven't used more. I hope April continues to cooperate, and it'll actually be an impressive year that we used a little less. So we did use large amounts only a few times. So the scale didn't tip like it normally does on the milder years where you do end up spending more. We just honestly lucky. The weather played out in our favor. A lot of the events that we had that were bigger this year stopped and it went to 40 degrees like within 2 or 3 days later. So it helped us out a little bit. We didn't have the lingering effects of that kind of up and down. So as of right now, we're in a good place.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
I think that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Yep, thank you, Adam. Next up, we have Matt McDonnell, our Director of Engineering.
Afternoon, board. Matt McDonnell, Director of Engineering. Just following up and dovetailing on our township conversations. We're talking culverts a lot with our grant program with the Water Resource Commissioner's Office that's due May 1st. So I've reviewed several applications that we've sent to townships. So we are making good progress and more to come. We're working with a number of our township partners. So we will get applications for whoever would like to submit. So that's going well. Also going well, we did receive bids for a project we talked about this morning, the countywide bridges preventive maintenance project. This is where we're going to extend the service life of our very important assets. Our bridges are those bridge decks in particular, even though they're in good shape. What we're looking to do is do an epoxy deck seal. So we're sealing the decks, much like we chip seal our roadways. This would be a longer term solution for our decks, for our bridges. So that's numerous bridges countywide. The engineer's estimate was $711,000 and our low bid came in at $699,742. So that was great news for a company that progress company that we worked with in the past. So that was very good. So as we were talking this morning, inflationary pricing, we were very a little bit nervous putting this bid package out because we had done it previously and the bids came in quite high. The second bidder on this project was $845. So you can see it can get expensive really quickly. So with bids going up to just about $1 million. So so it's good news. So next meeting, that'll be part of the second quarter budget amendments, and that contract award will be as part of the package. We are scheduling pre-construction meetings for a variety of projects. So we are getting underway. So we can stop talking about salt and move into construction barrels. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. Any questions you have for me? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Dan Ackerman, our Director of Finance and IT.
All that happened since we last saw you. Scary business.
Yes.
man.
Well, good afternoon again, Dan Ackerman, Director of Finance and IT, and just want to say I really appreciate our discussion this morning. The budget obviously is very important, and I thought all of you had great questions. It's always my fear we get up here and throw a lot of information at you, and either we overwhelm you or, you know, whatever the case may be, and there's no dialogue. But I think it's good, you know, great questions from all of you, and you know, besides today, like if you have questions, if you know, maybe you're having problems sleeping and you pull out a report and start looking through it and you have other questions, my door is always open. So feel free to ask. So it's good to have that dialogue though. I'll start off with Michigan Transportation Funds. That's actually on page 49 of the board packet. So February is a little down. I mean, basically flat. February 2023 compared to 22, and year to date we're about 2% higher. So no concerns or issues there. Obviously only 2 months of information, but it's obviously very important. So we like to update the board every month on where that stands. So well, this morning we talked, or I mentioned the Protecting Michigan Pension Act, or grant program, I should say. I know at least one of you attended the webinar. If you haven't, they posted the webinar so you can still see it at your leisure. They also have the PowerPoint presentation available. I'd be more than happy to send that to you, or, you know, you have the link to they have a whole website for all this information. It was a good presentation. I didn't learn a ton of new information, but, you know, I thought they did a good job, and they have FAQs out there. We had the opportunity to ask questions if we wanted to. So the go live date was yesterday. And I got an email and of course already started submitting things, or I tried to. So I'm at least plugged in. I think they call it like an electronic signature or something. So I've got that set up. But the way it was rolled out, no government agency, I wouldn't think, would be able to meet the criteria and submit everything. They want a ton of information. And one of the things they want is a resolution from the board. So I don't know how any agency would have a resolution from the board, you know, that we don't know what we need to put in that resolution and submit it on the 17th. So it's going to be my goal to hopefully get that to you for the next board meeting. So then we're ready to submit at that time. They also need a signed affidavit from myself, and it needs to be notarized, along with lots of reports and other information. And it looks like the way the website is set up, there's no, that I could find way to, you know, start working on it, maybe save your data and then come back later. It almost seems like you have to do everything at once. So my approach is going to be have all my ducks in a row and submit, you know, upload all my documents and, you know, finalize the paperwork and just submit it all at once. So it's interesting, but at least, you know, at least I was able to get into everything and start kind of playing around with things. And so I guess look for that, a resolution. I think the resolution from the board just states that you're allowing me to attest to the fact that we're, you know, following best practices for our pension program. And yes, we are underfunded and so on. So, you know, I guess whatever criteria they put out there, I'm willing to follow if there's money to be had. So, so I don't know if there's any questions on that at all, but we're on top of it.
Did they offer a template letter or resolution?
I didn't see that. So that'd be nice. My plan is
So
to
you
reach.
write one and that'll become their template, I
Maybe.
suspect.
Well, so a lot of times, you know, MERS runs our pension program. A lot of times they're like 2 steps ahead. So I think that's going to be my first approach, is to reach out to MERS and possibly our auditors to see if they have any suggested language for us to include. You know, and maybe they don't, but I think that's a good place to start, because yeah, I was a little disappointed too that, you know, and you know, I still want to look around some more, but yeah, it'd be nice to have it like a starting point for this, as opposed to them saying, oh, your resolution didn't include A, B, and C, you know, so.
Right.
So well, more to come on that, but I'm going to hopefully turn that around. I've set a goal for myself by the next board meeting. Of course, we have until I think June 15th. So we would have several board meetings to, you know, be able to submit everything on time. Any other questions on that at all? Okay. So I want to take you all back to 2020 in the height of COVID. And there's a reason why I want to do that. If you recall, there were several funds available related to COVID expenses. There were stipulations that it was not for road commissions. The grant money was more for first responders and medical field and so on. But Cheryl found some information, and there was this possibility that we could receive some FEMA money, and the expenses that we could include is hand sanitizer, which how much would that be, right? You wouldn't think much, but we went through a ton of hand sanitizer. If you recall, at times you couldn't find hand sanitizer anywhere. So Jeff Mann did a great job. I think Ugly Dog Distillery in Chelsea, pretty smart on their part, but they were producing hand sanitizer that we did purchase some from. Masks, Mess is also something that could be included with this reimbursement. The social distancing signage, you probably see some of the little stickers. I think Cheryl, you have one by your office, you know, don't stand past this dot here. And we had other signage too that we had purchased to encourage social distancing. Some of the plastic partitions that we have. Anyway, so believe it or not, all this totaled about $22,000. And the process, especially like with FEMA, sometimes there can be lots of hoops to follow. So I want to say we started submitting late 2020 or maybe early 2021. We started this process. You have to get into the FEMA portal, which takes a long time. I had to talk to someone in Texas and someone, you know, all over the place. So compiled all the information, thought we're good. Then, you know, FEMA's like, we have some questions. And, you know, what were their questions? Like, hey, you know, Ugly Dog Distillery, you know, what the heck are you guys buying here? And why are you submitting that for reimbursement? Because we had to provide receipts and all that. No, their questions were, so the partitions that you put in, how many holes did you put into the wall? And is it a historical building? And just, I could not believe the type of questions that they had. So, but we want to play the game and, you know, follow the process. So we did, and finally made it through the FEMA process. That probably took half a year, maybe. Just a lot of back and forth, or, you know, we like your spreadsheet. Can you do this? Can you do that? And we see more copies of invoices. So we thought we're good. Then it goes from FEMA to Michigan State Police. They're kind of overseeing the distribution of all the funds. And I don't even know what does SAM stand for? SAM.
I don't know.
Do you remember, Matt, what that stands for?
Supervisors Association. of
No,
Michigan.
Well, that's one.
it's some federal.
Adam
Yeah,
just.
the superintendents, yes.
It was not that Sam.
It's a federal website. I put it out in my memory banks, but so there's some things involving there in our unique employee identifier, and I had to get something notarized to get some information, and it was just crazy. Thought we're good, and then took a little time with the state police. You know, everybody was kind, but you know, they would say, okay, maybe you'll get payment within 3 to 6 weeks. This was probably starting in maybe October of last year. And so I would put a little thing on my calendar, 3 to 6 weeks would go by, and I'd say, hey, we haven't received our money yet. And they'd say, oh, well, you got to do such and such and so and so. Okay, so I'll do that, and or I've already done that, and here's proof that I've done it. Actually, the state police put me in contact with a consultant they use in Florida, who was familiar with the process. So I was working with her, and she was great to, you know, just help me again. It just unbelievable, like the type of information you have to provide. Some employers were submitting for millions and millions of dollars. You can imagine larger organizations. So we were considered a small project. So I thought, well, this is going to be, you know, pretty straightforward. So I had another tickler file, or just a little email or a calendar notice to say, you know, ask again about where's our money, because it's been 3 to 6 weeks. And so I reached out, and they said it'll be another 3 to 6 weeks. Yesterday, lo and behold, in the mail, we received our check finally. So, so yeah, it's about $22,000. We are plugged in with the state of Michigan to receive payments electronically. Why they chose to send us a check, I have no idea. But so.
Is it real? Did it clear?
It looks real. We have not taken it to the bank yet, so I'll let you know if it doesn't cash. But and you know, you're probably like, well, why haven't we heard a lot of information on this? You know, Cheryl and I both were not sure, like, if we would ever receive any money. So it's like, I guess my thought is, if I mention it, then you probably, so where's our money? You know, you mentioned this COVID money, where's our money at? And I must admit, a few times I was close to giving up, but Cheryl was encouraging me to continue to follow through. And on occasion, we'd find some information about it and she'd say, hey, have you seen this? And a lot of the times I'd say yes, sometimes I'd say no, and
Yep.
try and call this person or that person. So, you know, after a while, it becomes the principle of the thing, you know. I was not going to stop until either they say, we're not sending you money or we get the check. So anyway, that's probably a longer explanation than you care about, but we did receive something for COVID. And again, it was for hand sanitizer and masks and signage and plastic partitions and all those
Enhanced
types.
cleaning services.
Yep, yeah, right, that's right. So our cleaning services for our buildings, they did additional cleaning above and beyond, you know, like with door handles and things like that. So we were allowed to include those. Staff was great. We created a folder basically for all of our COVID expenses. So Adam's folks in facilities and Jeff Mann would put electronic copies of invoices there. So it was really easy for me to compile everything. But so it was a team effort, but so I'm happy to report we did receive that $22,000. I had to interrupt. Cheryl was meeting with Adam. I'm like, Cheryl, and I showed her the check. She's like, got it? I can't believe it.
Very excited.
Yes.
Very
so-
excited.
So anyway, just wanted to share that with you. And also, my next task is completing the Act 51 report by May 1st.
Yeah.
For IT, lots of projects coming up for IT. May 1st, we're doing the cell phone rollout for our employees, and that'll be most of that week. May 9th, room 106, the improvements to room 106 is going to start. So we're looking forward to that. I mentioned there are some things with Precision, our financial software, and we received a new patch for that, and we're hoping it fixed the majority of the issues. So far we haven't heard a lot of feedback. We basically said, hey, this should have fixed a lot of the issues, and we're waiting for the users to respond back if it hasn't, and we've not heard a lot. Josh is about 61% complete with the 2023 computer refreshes, so he continues to move through those. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, on page 4 of that letter from Plant Moran, they touched on it briefly, but they mentioned cybersecurity and IT controls, which obviously it's important to them and it's important to us. And certainly that's not news to all of you. And, you know, just a great job that Chris and Josh do to raise our awareness. You know, for instance, you don't share your passwords, and in the organization, you don't even share the passwords with IT. So that's how serious, you know, he's taking things. Multi-factor authentication. So, you know, let's say you're working from home and you get onto the VPN, then it's going to send something to your phone to verify your identity. You know, the cybersecurity training, you know, the spoofed emails to see if employees fall for all those things, you know, really makes, you know, our IT controls stronger. And obviously it's important to Plant Moran too. And, you know, I think that's, you know, Chris coming on board, he really raised our awareness of how important these things are. And I think he's always looking forward as well. You know, if there's other things we can implement, you know, certainly the bad guys are always getting creative too. So we want to try and stay one step ahead if we can. So, but I just was, you know, just wanted to point that out, that again, Plant Moran feels it's very, very important. And, you know, certainly the organization does as well. So that's my report.
Any questions for Dan?
Thank you
Thank you, Dan.
for your persistence on that.
I can't tell you how many times I was willing to give up, and months would go by, and probably dust was you know, gathering on some of my paperwork, and I'm like, or maybe Cheryl would say, so have you heard
Where's our
anything
money?
yet? And I'd say, no, I haven't. Okay, I'll try and reach out again. And I could not believe, you know, like I said, we're a small project, just the hoops. And then, you know, you think they'd want more clarification or more information. No, they want to know about holes in the wall. And, you know, how does that matter? I guess they're really concerned about historical buildings, FEMA is, or the federal government. Or how these grants work. So, you know, this is not a historical building, not yet. No.
And I would just suggest in the future, if you feel like you've come up against a brick wall, Congresswoman Dingle emphasized over and over and over, contact my office.
Oh,
Let us
really?
help you.
Okay,
If you have a problem, I want to be able to be useful.
okay.
So,
That's good to know. I mean, there are times, you know, desperation was setting in and I'm like, geez, where do I turn? You know, I've engaged half a dozen people and no one's given me proper direction. So that's good to know.
and I've explained to her that in the past, we didn't have that kind of cooperation or outreach by the member who represented this half of the county.
Sure. Yeah.
And she
Yep.
said, well, be that as it may, that's why I'm here. Call me, we'll get a staff on it. And now you've got George's contact information. So.
Yeah.
Just remember, if you
Okay.
need someone to run it up the flagpole one
Yeah.
more time, she wants to help.
Yep, great. Good to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
That's it for
Well
staff.
said. Okay. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to enter into closed session under section 8E of the Open Meetings Act to consult with legal counsel regarding the Black v. Washtenaw County Road Commission settlement agreement. May I have a motion?
I so move.
Support. If you would please call the roll, Aaron.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas,
Yes.
Commissioner Joanne McCollum,
Yes.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Yes.
and Commissioner Burt Fuller.
Yes. So would you like to go over the housekeeping for this? So anyone who's listening understands how this works,
Yep.
please.
For virtual participants, if you're not a road commissioner or a designated staff member, our communications manager will now move you to the virtual rating room. If you'd like to be returned to the open session of the meeting, once we have completed the closed session, please remain in the waiting room. She will readmit you once the closed session has been completed. And then for in-person attendees, please stay in your seats and you're welcome to wait in the boardroom until the closed session has been completed.
And this group will move to the conference room upstairs for the closed session. We will then come back to this room, re-enter open session and proceed with any business that might be derived in this closed session. So if you want to pause the recording, Ms. Tiffany. At this time, I will entertain a motion to end our closed session and return to open session.
I so move.
Support.
Aaron, if you'd please call the roll.
Commissioner Joanne McCollum,
Yes.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas,
Yes.
and Commissioner Burt Fuller.
Yes, we have returned to open session. We will now continue with new business action item B. I would entertain the motion as presented coming out of closed session.
Madam Chair, that upon the recommendation of the Director of Engineering, County Highway Engineer, and the concurrence of the Managing Director, the board approves the settlement agreement in the Black versus Washtenaw County Road Commission, case number 21-001216-CH, and authorizes the Managing Director to sign the agreement.
I support.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Aaron, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas,
Yes.
Commissioner Joanne McCollum,
Yes.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Yes.
and Commissioner Burt Fuller.
Yes. The Black versus Washtenaw County Road Commission settlement agreement is approved as presented. All right, so if everyone would please note that on May 2nd, we have our next regular board meeting. There is no working session on that day. The next two chat sessions on April 19th and 26th will be staffed by myself. They occur each Wednesday from noon to 1 p.m. If you have questions about the chat schedule, the latest edition is dated April 4th of 2023. There's no further business to come before the board. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support. Aaron, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Joanne McCollum,
Yes.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas.
Yes.
And Commissioner Burt Fuller.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.